welcome to UC Today. My name is Kieran Devlin, and this is the 2026 Big UC update for Voss. I'm delighted to be joined by Mike Frayne, CEO of Voss. Mike, it's terrific to have you back.
Yeah, good to be back again. Thank you for having me.
And last year we had a fantastic introduction to Voss, and I'd encourage anyone who missed it at the time to go back and have a listen or view. They've got a real sense of your passions, Mike, and your professional journey and what makes Voss unique. But to start us off, for those who are new to Voss or didn't catch up with our last chat, how would you sum up the business in your best elevator pitch?
So Voss is an automation and management software business. We originally created solutions to help our customers optimize their UC platforms across the life cycle of migration, deployment, orchestration, analytics, and monitoring. So instead of managing a bunch of multiple disconnected tools in various silos, Voss gives organizations a single control panel to manage, gain visibility about what they're doing, and then optimize the performance of those digital platforms.
And terrific. And I guess to spoil the conversation we had last year, the final thing I asked you was what you were most excited about for the year ahead. At the time, you spoke about exploring new domains beyond UC and the opportunities that AI might bring. Looking back, Mike, what have been the biggest drivers for Voss over the past 12 months?
So, Garrett, we obviously one kind of a conversation without AI. It's such a pervasive kind of component to not only business but everyday life as well. So that's definitely an element of what's being changed for us this year. And as you say, expanding out of our UC roots into other domains has been critical for us and very exciting as well. The third thing we've also done is we've recognized that we're actually sitting on a bunch of fairly unique telemetry data that we collecting in various different systems. So what we've been doing is we've been kind of evolving our own solutions into a single platform to give us access to that broad base of telemetry data. So that's been quite exciting and interesting for us as well.
You mentioned it's impossible to discuss AI, but let's dive into it at first, almost get it out of the way in a sense. How has Voss embraced AI internally, and how are you supporting the broader industry's AI initiatives?
Of course, AI is a very multi-layered topic, and perhaps start by saying, in some ways, there isn't really a broad industry kind of set of initiatives. So I think a lot of people are still grappling with what it's going to do, what it is, how they can use it, etc. So there's a lot of ambiguity. Different people have very different expectations of what it can and do, what it shouldn't be allowed to do, etc. So there's certainly tons of ambiguity about that. So, and in some cases, people are trying to adopt AI without necessarily thinking about what business problems they're trying to solve with it. So it's almost like a tool, a solution kind of looking around for a problem to solve in some cases. But what we're doing is obviously we aggressively adopting it internally. So, we're accelerating our engineering support being streamlined by it, custom engagement. We deploying it agents aggressively there, essentially trying to make our internal processes move faster and for us to operate more intelligently as a business. So I guess that's what everyone's trying to do. Yeah. And obviously as a software company, we've got massive advantages by being able to use AI just to get software done quicker and better as well. In terms of AI and our customers, it's a different debate. So, as I referred to earlier, we actually collect a enormous amount of quite unique telemetry data. So, AI needs basically appropriate, up-to-date and accurate data to do its magic. Because if you don't have something for AI to work on, it can't deliver a good outcome. So we've been quite focused around, as I said, putting all the data that we're collecting from different systems and stuff together, and so that's quite important for us. We, having access to that data, we obviously are building AI agents on top to present that data in more intelligent ways to customers. But we also accept that customers might want to use AI themselves to interrogate and do things with that data. So we're making that kind of more accessible to if our customers want to have their own agents to do their own thing and have that data available. So it's almost like we're separating the we're delivering some AI agents, but we are accepting that customers might want to build their own AI agents as well, and if we've got the data available. And I think there's two angles to that. Obviously, we've got all of our customers' data, but we've also got lots of customers' data, and obviously you've got to be cognizant of all the data integrity that one needs to maintain and data sovereignty things. In terms of trend analysis and stuff, we've got data across lots of platforms that we can kind of bring to bear in terms of augmenting not just what's happening, but what could happen if you kind of got access to that data that you can kind of spot angles and trends over time across as well. Another thing we're thinking about is that, obviously agents need domain knowledge to be really effective as well. So we're building agents on top of our data because we've got that domain knowledge as well. But what we're recognizing, and other software companies are doing the same thing. So people like ServiceNow will have agents that not only understand ServiceNow, but they also understand how a specific customer has kind of created or set up ServiceNow. So essentially having that kind of agent-to-agent mapping between our software and other software is also something that we're aggressively working on and looking at. So we can bring kind of our UC domain to bear to the conversation with the ServiceNow one, which has got obviously their domain knowledge. So you kind of getting not just our system talking to ServiceNow, but you're getting that sort of intelligent and flexible ability to integrate, which is a kind of obviously a massively added value as well. What we're seeing as well a little bit is that there's quite a lot of, it's almost like people are implementing AI without thinking about sort of how to do it in some way. So what we're seeing is, people are, say, creating an AI agent that's got access to their HR system, but forgetting that you don't want to give everybody access to all the data in AI in HR systems. So the kind of almost like governing access to what AI agents do, understanding which agents you've got, what they're doing. There's duplication of agents. There's almost like now you've created these agents, but are they being adopted? Are you getting value out of them? So that, and then there's the kind of whole aspect of, are those agents cognizant of all the policies and the rules? And in fact, are they aware of all the local laws, etc.? So I think just kind of managing agents is kind of an interesting concept as well. And that's something that we're looking to do more in as well.
No, I think that's almost like the next horizon for a lot of UC is how the streamlining agent management, making it more effective, more productive, and more accessible for the average workers, not just the IT leaders as well. And last year, we alluded earlier that you mentioned the need to diversify beyond Voss's UC roots. Now, actually, that has evolved into quite a core theme for Voss. Could you share how your focus has expanded across the broader digital workplace ecosystem, covering tools like Microsoft 365, security, productivity, and more?
Yep. So, if you, our sort of core value proposition is that there are a lot of sort of disparate tools that people have been using to manage, in quotes, the UC environment, and obviously providing a single pane across all of that simplifies it, makes it easier, more cost effective, and more efficient. But that same concept can be extended across the broader Microsoft ecosystem. So again, if you go within UC, there's a certain amount of tools, but once you get to, 365 and security and all these things, they've all got their own tools as well. So you'll end up with even a broader range of tools. And so the concept is just to almost have that single pane of glass extend into more domains so that you're giving people access not only to a single kind of pane to manage those things and therefore more efficiencies, etc. But you're also trying to implement some of the governance things that we have kind of core in our tool, like, hierarchy management and security management and audit tracking and stuff that's kind of inherent in I think they aren't always all thought through in all those tools or implemented in an efficient and consistent way. And even just like managing policies, if you're going to manage policies in 20 different tools, it gets complicated, etc. So the concept is it's almost like a natural evolution for us. So, we look after all of the things in one domain, but being able to look after all of the things in multiple domains is a kind of a much more added value capability for us. So that's what we're working hard on. And obviously, there's a broad range of those things that you can do. So we're trying to pick the ones that add the most value to our customers, where the pain points are most severe.
And naturally, with such a significant expansion comes a growing complexity in managing the digital workplace. Now, Voss knows a lot about successfully managing a digital workplace, having won a UC Today award in this category very recently. Can you talk about why digital workplace management is so critical and how automation, hierarchy, as you mentioned earlier, and RBAC help keep everything under control?
Sure. So, well, firstly, we're incredibly proud of to win the Best in Workplace Management Tool Award. So, especially in its very first year. So, we really appreciate the recognition there. Also, we were highly recommended in Best Service Management, which is an honor for us as well. So, as you say, digital workplace is the reality of how organizations operate in today's sort of multi-vendor, multi-cloud, multi-everything environments. And as as the digital footprint increases in complexity and breadth, by definition, it needs to be effectively managed. So without some kind of structure, you'll end up with duplication, overlaps, inconsistent policy application. You've got siloed data, which isn't easy to access. You've got license fraud. You've got slow delivery because you've got different teams involved in these things. And obviously, it's not cost effective to do that. So essentially just understanding that concept and being able to apply some simple capabilities like a flexible hierarchy. So you can essentially, the organization, the way it's organized and structured and how decisions are made locally can be embedded into the product, into the solution, and therefore applied to all of those capabilities is super important. And then once you've got that hierarchy in place, then you can start devolving administration so that the people that are managing and in control of a particular department or a country or whatever are able to make sensible decisions about how they want to consume, apply policy, manage those environments. If you don't do that, you either got two things, which is it's kind of completely unmanaged where everyone's kind of doing what they want to, or you're trying to manage it from a single administration capability. And if you 20, 30 or 100,000 employees, that just becomes absolutely impractical and impossible, in fact.
I think we can move on to the third evolution, and I have naturally working with you guys and following you guys closely. I think this has been really interesting over the past year how Voss as a platform has evolved. You now offer migration, automation, and analytics as the single suite rather than separate, distinct products. How does this more holistic approach help customers solve their real world tangible challenges?
Well, of course, the first one is just a little bit eating our own dog food. If we got three different kind of capabilities and we try to be a single pane of glass, that doesn't resonate that well. So just being able to put all of the things we do into a single kind of capability makes us more efficient and simple for our customers to use. So that's an obvious thing. But the other key thing we debated before is if we've got these different capabilities, then the data linked to those capabilities is siloed as well. So having that live telemetry is such a critical asset to what people are trying to do now. So not only have we broadened the scope of the data that we've got available, but we've kind of enriched it as well. So because we not only know what's happening on the network, we know who's doing what with that on the network. So you've got that kind of context of which people are using what, which people are involved. Or even if you've got a network component that goes down and no one's connected to it, you don't really care about it. So that type of knowing what people, what roles, what traffic, what adoption there is, means that the data that you've got available is just that much more enriched. But that's a key driver for us is having that sort of consistent and structured telemetry data. But the third and other component is that, we think of, when we talk about these things, we think of digital workplace as if people are thinking about it in a very organized and structured way. And it doesn't really work like that in practice. It's evolving at different paces and different people and different budgets. So you have this kind of almost like unstructured approach to how digital management is being implemented in organizations as well. So having, we try to kind of sell a platform that manages the digital workplace, but in practice, people don't always want to consume that. They just want the bit that they want today, and maybe tomorrow they want a bit more. So what this does is it allows us to componentize our capabilities a bit more, so we can offer more granular solutions. So if someone's just trying to do license management and they don't really care about anything else, then we can essentially help them solve that business problem without, trying to embrace the whole digital management thing. I mean, it sounds, as I say, it sounds good in the books, but in practice, that isn't necessary how people are actually implementing it. So it's just a kind of a incremental a way of getting into supporting people's digital workplace, rather than trying to kind of sell them the top-down solution all the time.
Thanks, Mike. I wonder if we could maybe dig into a little more detail and some of the customer success stories you've mentioned, Mike.
Mm. I think maybe two interesting ones. So what we're finding is, again, we talk about that digital workplace. It's hard to manage what you don't know you have. So we're doing a couple of what we call deep discovery projects. So we're helping customers understand, look, what have you got? What's being used, what's not being used, and what licenses have you got, and what duplications have you got? So almost like a starting point is going in there, sucking out the data of what they've got, doing auto discovery of what's on what assets they have, and then linking that to which of those assets are being used, which are being adopted, which aren't. So companies can more efficiently look at, okay, we don't, we've got Zoom and we've got Teams and we've got whatever else, and we're only using some of that occasionally. So do we really need all of those things, etc.? There's been a lot of sprawl about those things, particularly during COVID, when people just kind of rushed in and started using things. So that's quite interesting because it sort of sets a framework around what you need to manage rather than just you will just manage what we got there. But more importantly, it results in substantial savings for people once they start seeing about what licenses they got, what licenses they need, etc. Then they can rationalize what they're spending their money on. And obviously, in today's environment, everyone is trying to kind of be more careful about that. So those are super interesting projects, and we've done some quite large scale ones, and there's demand for that. The other interesting one gets into, I think people have been historically encouraged perhaps to deploy Microsoft as a single tenant, as sort of a super tenant. So very large organizations are essentially set up as one single tenant. And in some cases, the management tools that people are using don't have this kind of flexibility of hierarchy and role-based access control. So what you land up with is like 100,000 users in a single tenant being administered by one person. And that just becomes kind of completely impractical. I mean, if you think about, quarantined emails, if you got quarantined emails from 100,000 people, that's a lot of quarantined emails. And if people are asking you to release it, you're just mechanically doing it. There's no kind of thought process to the stuff. So the value of trying to secure those emails and make sure only the right emails go to the right people kind of gets lost because you're just overwhelmed by quantity. So being able to take that and structure it and create a hierarchy, and then having kind of the ability to delegate access control so that the emails for a department go to someone in that department that cares about that, can actually forensically manage it. It's just a very simple use case, but adds a ton of value. So that's a thing that we come across quite often as well, and in sort of quite large government departments, etc., where you wouldn't think that problem existed. It does, yeah.
Well, speaking as a inbox neat freak, the idea of 100,000 quarantined emails is my worst nightmare. So anything that I guess sort of manages that better would be very welcome.
Absolutely.
In my recent series for Voss, we explored the idea of taking back control, this very empowering phrase in the digital workplace. Through your lens, why is this such a key focus, and how does Voss empower organizations to reclaim control over their tools and processes?
So, Karen, yeah, some of it we talked about a little bit, which is, going in there and helping people figure out what they've got so they know what they need to manage. In other words, structuring their environment so they've got the right things, the right tools, right capabilities in place for the right people, for the things they're trying to do. But it's really about, people have often kind of just, it's almost like the digital workplace has evolved without really any control. They've adopted cloud, they've adopted collaboration, they've adopted AI, they've done all sorts of things, and they haven't really put a kind of governance layer across all of those things. And that's what we're trying to help people do is there's a kind of a management layer that sits on top of that, understands what's happening. You can put that governance and policy management and kind of access control into a single framework, then by definition that environment just gets more managed. And but also a lot of what we're doing is around analytics. So clearly, if you've got all that stuff in place, you got to track what's being used, because you can do it once and it's kind of all set up. But being able to extract the data and analyze the data and understanding on an ongoing basis what's going on there, so you're constantly optimizing it, gives people just control not only of the environment but also of the spend on the environment just at the same time.
And one final question before I let you go, Mike, and it will be a revisit of a nice bookend to my first question of today. Looking ahead, what will Voss be focusing on for the next 12 months? And are there any emerging trends or priorities that really excite you for the year ahead?
So, Kieran, I think it's possibly slightly boring to say more of the same, but what we think about, we are working on creating a kind of initial version of an AI management tool. So that's super kind of critical to us to get done this year. So as I said, being able to help people know what agents they got, manage the agents, again, do the analytics to see, is this agent actually delivering the value it was supposed to do for the cost that you're incurring on doing it? So that concept is quite critical to us in Voss, and it's an interesting dynamic for us. I think the other one is just using more AI, and you guys wrote a fantastic article for us on that as well, which is, obviously just being able to do more predictive analysis. We got, as I said, all this data available. If we can help people not just know what's going on, but what's going to happen in the future. So kind of just using AI to give people more value constantly from the solution. So just enhancing the capabilities of what we do in Voss. And then, of course, broadening it across those domains is a probably ongoing theme for us for the next couple of years, I'm sure.
Fantastic. Yes, I completely agree. I think just that refinement of AI, so it's delivering tangible value for customers, just seems to be that is the North Star now. I think in so many cases. That
Absolutely.
is unfortunately all we've got time for today. But it's been a terrific session. So thank you again for Mike. It's been terrific to see you again.
Yeah, very much appreciate the time, Kieran. Take care.
And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share on social media. And we'll see you next time. I've been Kieran Devlin, the user today. Thanks for watching.